All right, so one of the key concepts is to be able to rewrite a radical using exponents. So if you look at the question of square root of x to the fifth and fifth root of x to the ninth, what is going to happen here is the index, when we rewrite it, is going to become the denominator. So when you look at this expression, let's just refocus really quickly. When you look at, for example, the square root of x to the fifth, that has an understood index of 2. So I like to think about this as everything is going to stay the same except this index is going to become our denominator. So the only thing that changes is this little 2 is now going to become a denominator. So we will have x to the fifth, that's going to stay just as it is, but now all of this radical index is going to become a 2 in the denominator. So you would rewrite this as x to the fifth over 2. As another example, if I look at the fifth root of x to the ninth, everything's going to stay the same except this index, and that index is now going to become our denominator. So we will have x to the ninth, all of that stays the same, and then our denominator will now be a 5, excuse me, a 5 coming from that index. All right, now you can of course go the other way around. So if you go the other way around, what will happen is everything's going to stay the same, except this denominator is now going to become the index of our radical. So we will still have the x to the first, but now instead of having the denominator of 2, we will now have that is the index of our radical of 2. Now, do note, because the square root has an understood index of 2, you don't have to write that. So you would just write it as square root of x. All right, let's look at another one. So if I have x to the 7/3 and I want to write that in terms of a radical, everything would stay the same except for this index or denominator. So this denominator is going to become our index. So we will have x to the 7th, that stays the same, but then our denominator will be converted into an index of a radical. So we will now have the cube root of x to the 7th.